Hello, my name is David Bass and I am a professional jump jockey. My parents are musicians, but my dad and my granddad they loved going jump racing and point-to-point racing as a bit of a hobby, and that's how I got into it. I had a few lessons when I was very young, but soon went off it and started playing football and riding skateboards, and yeah, so I didn't really grow up with horses. And then when I was 16, I didn't have anything to do and thought it'd be quite fun to be a jockey. So I went to the racing school, and they practically taught me to ride. I basically got in touch with the racing school and I went for an interview. And luckily I knew plenty about racing because of my dad. And I got a place, and then you go for 9 weeks. I went for a little bit of work experience before I went there for a permit holder called Clarissa Caro. I rode the pony there. But yeah, I went to the racing school and I knew nothing really. I could barely put a bridle on. Probably can't do that now, but yeah, so. And then the great thing with the racing school is you go there for 9 weeks and they get you a job. You go straight into a job. And I went to work for Richard Phillips after 9 weeks. I was at Richard Phillips for 2 years. I learnt a lot, but I was desperate to ride, and I didn't really see a future there race riding. So I went and worked for a point-to-point trainer, and I ended up working for a very eccentric man called John Manners, who he obviously had the nickname of Mad Manners. He was very eccentric, but he gave people an opportunity, and he let me ride in point-to-points, and I must have had sort of well over 100 rides in point-to-points. I rode a horse called Man from Highworth at Lark Hill. He was my first winner, and he was my first winner under rules as well, the same horse at Toaster in a novice chase. Yeah, so I went to Nicky's and as a conditional, and he was very good to me. He put me on some very good horses, and I rode my claim out for Nicky, and then I kept riding out there for quite a few years, and then I rode the Cheltenham Festival winner for Kim, and I sort of fell into being stable jockey here. I suppose my biggest success would be I rode a Grade 1 winner at the Cheltenham Festival for Ben Pauling, but I suppose another big winner was First Flow winning the Clarence House at Ascot. It was another Grade 1, which was a big day. There was a spare ride going at Toaster one day I think it was a bank holiday, or there's loads of racing on, and I think there was two or three jockeys that were offered to Kim, and a good friend of mine, Ed Cookson, who now rides out for us, he sort of, I think he put in a good word. Anyway, I ended up riding the horse. First time I met Kim, he came up to me and said, I don't know who you are, I've never heard of you, but Ed seems to think you're all right. So I rode the horse, it won. I think I dropped my stick actually. I dropped my stick, but it still won. And then I started riding out here after that. And then the following season I started getting a few rides, and Jason Maguire, who was riding most of Kim's at the time, he was injured, and I luckily got on a horse called Dana at the Cheltenham Festival. AP McCoy rode the stable first string in the race, which I wanted to ride, which I'd won a race on previously. But I ended up riding Dana, and he won a handicap at the Cheltenham Festival. So that sort of cemented my place here, and I've been here ever since. Oh, how long have we got? Trainers moaning about staff and young people. That would be older trainers that, you know, when the fixture list wasn't crazy and we didn't have Sunday racing and it wasn't on all the time. I mean, the fixture list to me is it's crazy. But we could open a can of worms and we started talking about this. I mean, the fixed list has just come out for next year. They're going to trial 6 all-weather Sunday evening fixtures, which is a slippery slope. And as much as, you know, modern life is very different, people now want more work-life balance, and I think racing has to evolve with the times, and I don't think we can carry on with the fixed list that we have. I think it's crazy we don't have an off-season. I think jump racing should stop for a longer period of time than it does. There'll be loads of reasons for that: staff, jockeys, trainers, race courses, all to, you know, sort of have a good break, really. Prize money is another massive thing, but I could sit here talking all day, but I'm probably not going to change it. And unfortunately, racing is controlled by bookmakers and race courses, and it doesn't look like changing very, very quickly. So it's probably a waste of time me complaining about it. But I do think that it's a shame that there's lots of people working really hard and they're not being rewarded enough. And it'd be the same with owners. They're spending a lot of money and putting a lot into the game, and they're not being rewarded with good prize money. And it's the same the whole way through with stable jockeys and jockeys. And yeah, so, but I'm not going to complain too much, because racing has given me a very good career and I've earned a good living out of it. But there are a lot of things I would love to change. I think I'll stop there before I keep going on and on. When I was 16, I was way over 10 stone. I thought I'd be too heavy to be a professional jockey. You know, I never sat below 10 stone like a lot of lads started on the flat, or, you know, I was always quite heavy. So, but diet and nutrition is for a job that you know, you obviously get weighed regularly, and diet and nutrition is everything. It's, you know, I think we're very outdated on talking about nutrition, and when I was younger in racing, there wasn't enough education on it. It's getting better now. I mean, I worked for a little bit in the PGA, and I wanted to try and change the food at racecourses to try and more for just education for young jockeys about what we're eating, and just trying to manage weight better. And that has changed, and we have got people that are trying to make a difference with that. But we've still got a lot of catching up to do with other sports. There's a lot more science involved with other sports, but I think nutrition is so important, because it really is life changing. I mean, I made the decision to have a plant-based diet 4 years ago, which has helped me massively. And it has meant that I'm far more educated on what I'm eating and nutrition, and I think that's important for young jockeys. In the winter, in the season, I wouldn't really eat breakfast. I'd have a coffee and a banana in the morning, and then I would probably snack on fruit and maybe some nuts before I ride, and then I'd have like one big substantial meal in the evening. That would be like the main winter thing. But I have to make sure I get enough protein, so. I'd have a lot of lentils, chickpeas. I eat tofu to try and make sure I get enough protein. And then, yeah, and I have to be careful with other things like B12 as well, and that sort of thing. And I wouldn't have a load of supplements, but in the winter I would use supplements as well, which I think would be a good thing for a lot of jockeys, to make sure they're getting what they need. Because our lifestyles are so crazy, with a lot of driving and not eating much, and you know, riding in the afternoon, that I think that using supplements and making sure you're getting enough of what you need is important. But yeah, no, I wouldn't eat breakfast, and I'd focus on one substantial meal a day, and try and get protein and obviously loads of veg. Yeah, so that's what works for me anyway. But everyone's different, so everyone manages their weight differently, but that's what seems to work for me. I think the new whip rules are good. A lot of my colleagues would disagree. Since the whip rules have come in, I think I've seen jockeys use the stick far better, as in they put it down quickly and they go for it later, which I think is good. And I think the evidence would suggest we've had less interference as well, because jockeys aren't using the stick too much and having, one hand on the reins. So I think the whip rules are good. I think the numbers are about right, and I think we can make these whip rules work. I think the harsher penalties were needed, and I think that has helped with most jockeys in not re-offending. But I think we'll find out. We'll learn more in the next year or so to see if it's really worked with the harsher penalties. But we had to try and be in line with other countries as well, because France have gone to 4, lots of states in America are 6 hits, and then other European countries even less. Lots of people think that the number it doesn't matter, because it should be the way it looks and the perception of it. But where we are now and the world we live in now, I think it's better for racing and jockeys to have strict black and white rules, and we need to be seen to have strict black and white rules that are meaning jockeys are using the stick less, and that is why I think there should be a number. We need to show people outside of racing that we are serious about policing the whip, and that is why a number and black and white rules and harsh penalties are needed. And I think it will work in the long term. I occasionally have a go on a skateboard, but it's probably not a good idea. I'm pretty. Some people say I'm pretty reckless on a horse, and I was probably the same on a skateboard. So it's not a good idea. But I love my football. I'm a big Spurs fan. We're top of the league, by the way. And I'm big into music. I love my music. I love going to music festivals. I went to Glastonbury this year. I didn't have a shower for 3 days, which was went around the weighing room very quickly. But I loved it. I love live music. I play the drums as well, so I used to play in a band when I was at school. And yeah, I love live music. I love alternative music. My favourite genre is probably punk rock. So yeah, that would be a big thing outside of racing for me. Oh, I'd love to be a drummer in a band. Yeah, either that or a footballer. But I'd say a drummer in a band. Playing live is. I only did it a few times and not to many people, but I absolutely loved it, and it's the closest thing that in my life that has come to race riding, I suppose, playing the drums live. So yeah, I would love to be walking out on a big stage at a music festival. It's a very hard question. I don't know whether I'll still be riding. I'm 35. I feel as fit and as healthy as I have for a long time. I'm enjoying race riding as more than I ever have. So hopefully I've got a few more years left in me. But whether I'll still be riding at 40 is debatable. And then, yeah, that's obviously the next chapter in my life is something that will have to be thought about in the coming years.